Namaste and greetings of the day. This is your host for the evening, Shambhavi Singh, College Ambassador of Vidhi Ekta. Before we start, let me give a short introduction about VS. So, Vidhi Ekta Sangh is an organization with number of judges, lawyers, legal students, and various other people belonging to the legal fraternity who come all together for promoting and organizing a systematic and progressive law environment. It also conducts several competition, awareness programs and internships for students as well as also it has successfully released podcasts with different dignitaries from this field. So through this podcast season named SAFAR, whose first season was a massive hit and now we are here with season 2 episode 4 and our esteemed guest for today is Ms. Swati Jindal ma'am AOR from the Supreme Court of India.
The biggest challenge that any first generation lawyer, or for that matter any first generation anyone that faces, is that there is that the lack of a mentor, so to say. That if you feel that there is a question that is area specific, for example, if I had a question that was law specific or something that I needed guidance on, where do you go? Because it's not like your father is in this area, or your older sister or your older brother, or any friend for that matter. At that time, you are totally at CEO by by yourself. You have to make up the choice as to who you would want to follow, who it is that you would want to befriend, and who is it that you want to be with. So the entire risk is on you. You are the one who would be fully responsible for your success as well as your failure. So, as a first generation lawyer, you are alone in this battle. It is only later on, as you move ahead in your journey, you befriend people, you make a team. But to begin with, when you need people the most, the only person who helps you is yourself. So that, I think, is the biggest challenge. And that also, before you ask me as to what was my biggest strength, I think being a first generation lawyer is also my biggest strength. Because once a person has started learning as to how to live with themselves, when they start learning to rely on themselves, then they don't need to look outside. Whenever they
Yeah.
are in trouble, they know that there will always be that one person who they can vouch for, and that is themselves. So you are your biggest aid, you are your biggest hero as far as first generation lawyer is concerned. So that not only becomes the biggest challenge for you, it also becomes the biggest strength if you learn to utilize it fairly.
Yes, ma'am, we can see you as an example. We get inspiration from you.
So that is it humbles me. I find it a very humbling experience when people come to me, the younger aspiring lawyers, when they come to me and they tell me that, ma'am, we want to become like you. And I keep asking myself that even I don't want to become like myself. Why is it that they are wanting to become? See, the grass is always greener, Shambhavi, on the other side. But
Yeah,
well,
that is true.
it is the most humbling experience for me when people aspire to be like me.
Okay, ma'am, so what was the first case that you handled?
To be very honest, I don't even. I think it was a check bounce case, if I'm not wrong. See, initially, actually, the first case I assisted, my senior with was the Red Fort bomb blast case. I mean, I am sure
Okay.
I'd not even have been born at that time. I'm sure it was way back in 2002, even before I became a lawyer. So that I can say was the first. It just happened to be a sensational case, but also my first case. You know what I mean? So it was, in fact, I think that case might have a big hand in me having that special interest in criminal law. So
That's so
that
good to hear.
that was my first case.
So there's also a myth about advocacy that people who are having a traditional legal background often find it comfortable and more easier to adapt the environment of the courts rather than the ones coming from first generation.
I
So how
I
was
think
your experience
I
about it?
don't think so. I think that people who come from a legacy of lawyers, they have a bigger problem facing them, because you do know that let me give you an example. I mean, Abhishek Bachchan is a great actor. We all know that he's pretty good looking, and no matter how hard he works, he will always be compared to his father. And
Yeah.
for that reason, any credit that is due his way will always get diluted, because people will say that, oh, after all, he's Amitabh Bachchan's son,
Hmm.
what the heck, acting is what it means. So he never really gets credit for anything. But if, unfortunately, if something ends up as a flop, people are at his case just because he's Amitabh Bachchan's son. So I don't think that life is any easier for a second, third, fifth generation lawyer. I think they are carrying a bigger burden. You know, there are certain things
It's
that are
true.
the burden of expectation is so, it looms so large over them that I really don't envy them for that matter. I think, see, law, I would say that a person does not choose his law, the law chooses a person, you know. So it does not really matter if you are a first generation lawyer or if you are a fifth generation lawyer. What really matters is how passionate you are about that subject. How passionate are you about your vocation? And if the passion is there, then nothing else matters.
Yeah, it's true. So you also started a firm named SJG and Associates. So what motivated you to do so?
Well, I have always been a very happy-go-lucky person. People say that I'm very ambitious, but I wouldn't call myself an ambitious person. Um, Whatever decision I have ever made in my life has been out of some sort of compulsion. I always try to avoid making decisions, taking decisions. But if that point comes that I have to make that call, I never shy away from it. So when the time came when I realized that I was being held back because I could not take a certain, some decisions because I did not have my own firm. If I'm passionate about a cause and I'm unable to take up a case because it is not politically correct to take it up as per the people I am with, or they are shying away from taking it, I realized now enough is enough. And then I started to go independent because I thought, well, if I feel passionately about a particular matter or a cause, let not there be any other reasons for not taking it up. People who are holding you back. So that is when I made the decision of going solo. And I have been, at that time, the only thing that held me back was that it is a 24/7 thing. I did not want to tie myself down to such responsibility of running your own firm. But now looking back, yes, it does tie you down to a large extent. But I I am glad that I took that decision. And if life gives me another chance, like people say, na, agar aapko wapas usi point pe khada kar diya jaye, will you take the same decision? Then I would say yes, I would take that same decision. In fact, I would tell a younger me to, I could have taken it long time back, saved more years for myself. And
Yeah, no.
now I'm very happy I took the decision that I did.
Okay, ma'am. So we also came to know that your firm provides internships for students. So out of curiosity, ma'am, people say that you should either take the degree then start doing internships. So in your experience, how true is that? We can start it from the beginning, like from the first year itself, or we need to take the longer the wait,
Let me put it
the
like
sweet it.
this, Kambavi. If you're living alone in your house, when will you learn how to cook? When you feel hungry, or would you, start thinking, well, Shambhavi, you are a human being. At one point in time, you will feel hungry. So why don't you cook, or why don't you learn how to cook? Because you have to eat, right? So once you have taken your degree and then you start interning,
Yes, ma'am.
जब जागो तभी सवेरा. Well, but then you,
हाँ.
the person who gets up early will catch the one worm, correct? So it is always better when you are doing law. If let's presume that you are doing a 5-year law course, because these days 5-year courses are abundantly available. I would say
Yeah,
there are more options for a 5-year degree than for a 3-year one. What is it that you're doing for 5 years apart from studying?
nothing.
At that point of time, you can't afford to waste 5 years of your life. You could have spent that time, you know, interning somewhere, and then
Yeah,
you not only have that, an office to turn to when you do get your law degree. You will
yes,
have at least 5 to 10 offices. Let's assume you intern in a new office every semester. So you will be having 10 offices to fall back on who would know you, the kind of person you are, your strengths and weaknesses. And you have 10 offices where you can send your profile and ask for a job. Vis a vis a person who has done no internships, for 5 years and has no experience whatsoever, then suddenly after the 5 year course they are totally raw. You need to enroll yourself at the bar, and then you're looking around for that one advocate who would vouch for your character and sign your bar form. You wouldn't find anybody who's willing to do that without knowing you. So I always recommend that start young, because you have made up your mind you are pursuing a professional degree. Why are you even pursuing it if you are not sure whether you want to become a lawyer or not? Well, if you have already decided that you want to do something else, and for that an LLB degree is required, even then, if you're not doing anything else during those 5 years, you're wasting your time. It will be better invested if you start your internships young.
Okay, ma'am. So internships का तो ma'am we can say one more thing कि like the lawyers, many lawyers they mention it that आपको या तो fourth year या तो fifth year में रहना है when you come for an internship. So is it there in your firm as well?
I think Shambhavi, you'll have to repeat the question because somehow there seemed to be some problem with the. Some lawyers say that 4 years. What I couldn't hear.
Okay, ma'am, for sure, I'll repeat it. So, ma'am, there are few lawyers who mention in their eligibility criteria कि once you apply for the internship, आपको या तो fourth year student रहना है या तो fifth year. आप first, second, third for a 5 year law course और आपको third year student रहना है for a 3 year law course. तो मैम आपकी firm में भी ऐसा कुछ है criteria?
See, even I don't. I generally see if you have 10 people who are applying and you only have the post for two interns, I would always give preference to an older student because they have lesser number of time left with them, right? I feel they are more in need. So
Yeah.
if I only have two posts and let's say 3 people apply for it, then I would take the senior most two.
So ma'am,
Until
in
that
your
person is that intern is exceptional, he or she has been with me before also, they have shown their commitment. See, I always give credence to commitment. If somebody has been really committed and following up with me for a long time, then I would my parameters would change and I would give preference to that person. I feel that there should be brownie points for commitment.
तो मैम advocacy में seniority matters a lot, right?
With a person like me, seniority not only in age and experience but also in commitment. A lot can be said. See, I always tell whoever it is who's my associate, I said that look, I'm not looking for a brilliant mind. I mean, I cannot claim to be brilliant myself. What I'm looking for is a certain level of discipline and a certain level of commitment, and if you have that, well, sky's the limit for you.
Yeah. ओके तो मैम आप अपने फर्म में इम्पार्शियलिटी और मेरिट बेस्ड रिवॉर्ड सिस्टम को कैसे मेंटेन करते हो?
Well, I try to be as fair as I can. All right, yeah, like I was saying, I'll continue. I try to be an unbiased person because, see, at the end of the day, the atmosphere in my office means a lot to me. It is, if I feel that the atmosphere is getting tense or it is becoming motivated, then I try my level best to warn the people who are doing it, because see, ultimately we as lawyers spend most of our times in the office, so it has to be a pleasant environment. I do not appreciate anybody stealing credit. If a, let's say if an intern has done some work and a junior or an associate tries to take credit for it, I always make them realize that it is wrong. If a particular work has been done by my associate, I always try to give them credit. Instead of, I feel that, stealing someone's credit will not be good for your future. It's not the right thing to do. So I always try to reward merit by giving them credit for what they have done. Because at the end of the day, what is it that an advocate wants? At this stage, you would want to feel appreciated for the hard work that you have put in. So, well, I have been sticking to this policy for a long time, and I would continue. I would like to continue to go like this for as long as I can.
So ma'am, in your view, what exactly is merit based credit system?
See, there are two ways. One is where you try to reward somebody economically, and the other is when you try to give them credit whenever it is that they come up with something meritorious. How you recognize that merit would solely depend on, your own personality and what is your own recognition of merit. If you're recognizing merit because a certain work was done on time, well, then that is that. Suppose there is an SLP that has to be drafted within today and filed today, and if a person does it well, then that person is meritorious, right? And also with a certain level of precision. It's not like you just randomly do anything that you feel like and just to get the work done. So, as far as recognizing merit goes, it would depend on the timing of the work, whether the work was done efficiently, whether it was done honestly. For example, if there is a write up that has to be done, well, I have had interns who are especially, friendly with the chat GPT.
Okay.
I wouldn't call that meritorious, right? Because ChatGPT has its own limitations, and we can't afford at this stage to, you know, have a person in the office who says that ये काम मैंने check करके कर लिया है, and then only to find out later on that it was copied from ChatGPT. It is not at all reliable. So, how you recognize merit, what is your criteria for recognizing merit, would also depend upon what your demands are at that moment. Whether that demand is punctuality, whether that demand is excellence, whether that demand is academic research. Uh, all these factors have to be taken into consideration. So there is no one size fits all rule that you can develop for rewarding merit.
So, ma'am, we can say कि if we are walking into your firm, we can't take any shortcut.
I would say that if you want to work for a long time in any firm, and if you want to set up your own firm at one point of time, which I always encourage everyone to, then you can't afford to take shortcuts. See, shortcuts have a long EMI system, let me put it like that. So
Okay,
at the
ma'am.
end of the day, if you look at the total price, they will cost you dearly. It is better to struggle today when you still have the stamina for it, and you will not feel embarrassed,
Yeah.
struggling, rather than struggle at a later point of time when life would not be that kind to you, your age would pull you down, so many other responsibilities on your head, you can't afford to take risks at that stage. So you take all the risks that you can when you're a free bird, when you're still young and dynamic. Go ahead and do it. Why take shortcuts? Why do you want to take shortcut to life? Life is as it is a journey from your life till the time of your death. So if you're taking a shortcut, you are just moving that much closer to your death. Are you not? So take the long cut and enjoy the view while you're at it. Why do you want to hurry in anything?
Yes, ma'am, it's definitely a very inspiring lesson for all of us. तो मैम आपका 18 years का एक्सपीरियंस है इन द लॉ फील्ड एंड इट्स एन अमेजिंग अचीवमेंट इन इटसेल्फ. तो व्हेन यू स्टार्टेड तब से और अभी के कोर्ट्स में आपको कितना डिफरेंस दिखा है और जो मेजर चेंजेस हैं लाइक जब आपने स्टार्ट किया था उसके कंपैरिजन में अभी इनसाइड
Uh,
द कोर्ट.
Inside the court, well, the biggest change that you see is that there is so much more bheed. It's too crowded now, as it was till a few years back. It is much more cutthroat. The biggest positive change that I see now is the women participation has increased a lot. I can see more women today than there were till a few years back. I see that the new entrants today are more focused. I remember initially, till a few years back, जो फ्रेशर्स आते थे वो उनको कुछ पता ही नहीं होता था, बिल्कुल ही रॉ होते थे वो. बट जो अब लोग आ रहे हैं जिन्होंने अभी फॉर दैट मैटर अगर अभी किसी ने लेट्स से 2024 में लॉ करके वो पास आउट हुए हैं, दे ऑलरेडी नो हाउ टू फाइल, दे ऑलरेडी नो. हाँ भाई, ऑनलाइन इस वाले कोर्ट का लिंक ये है, अरे ये जज साहब तो ऐसे हैं, वो जज साहब वैसे हैं, दे ऑलरेडी हैव एन आइडिया. So it's not like coming out as blank slates. There is already so much knowledge in them. I find that very positive. And I think that the students, the new ones that are entering in this field, are so much more focused than we were at that time. So um, they already have uh, a lot of experience when they're starting out as young advocates. So I would say that they would definitely do better than what we did, and they would do it quicker than the time that we used or we had
Ma'am, we get
put in.
inspired from you all. You
No,
all are
not
our
at all. I
inspirations.
think
You all
there's
are our
so
idols.
much. There are such tycoons, such people, such learned people in this professional field, and not enough people to take inspiration from them. I look at people, the kind of knowledge and the kind of humility that they have. it
Yeah.
it is beyond my understanding. I feel, how is it possible for a man to have so much of wisdom and yet be so humble about it? It boggles my mind sometimes when I see the people I take my inspiration from. I feel so humbled, and I just feel like, even if I spend my whole life, I cannot even be one speck of what they are. It somehow demotivates me and encourages me all in one go. So this is one profession I feel that we can learn a lot from our seniors.
Okay, ma'am. So we can say one of the greatest boon to our legal fraternity as well as mankind is public interest litigation. So, ma'am, in your point of view, do PILs actually bring about some social changes?
Of course they do. Of course, there are so many PILs that have brought about such changes. See, sometimes what happens, Shambhavi, is that we are looking at things and we are just sitting and thinking, यार ये तो पता नहीं ये क्या हो रहा है, इसको ये कब ठीक होगा.
Huh.
And then, we discuss it for a few minutes and then that's it. We don't do anything about it. But there is that one public spirited person, who is not only thinking about himself, who's thinking about the society and large, and who says, यार ये गलत हो रहा है यार, इसको ठीक करो. For that public spirited person to think of the public at large. Sometimes people say कि ये सब बेकार की बातें हैं, PIL VIL उन सबका vested interest होता है, and I'm like, चलो यार, अगर होता भी है, how does it matter? अगर कोई अपना vested interest sort out करके इसके बावजूद बाकी सब लोगों का भी भला कर रहा है, तो well, so be it. Good for him and good for the society to have such people in it, right? So many things have turned out right just because of somebody who took up the courage and who took up the time to invest in that PIL. So many things have come out which are really good.
ओके मैम, सो आप कोई ऐसा एक स्पेसिफिक PIL हमारे साथ शेयर करेंगे जिसको हम अभी तक अननोन है एंड इट इज़ अ वेरी सिग्निफिकेंट थिंग फॉर अस टू नो.
See, well, I can talk about two PILs. One of them has been disposed of, and the one is still pending before the Honorable Supreme Court, which I have filed in collaboration with an organization called Mandona.
ओके.
One of them was on the concept of sarpanchpatism. In fact, we can say that sarpanchpatism as a word was used, I think, for the first time by us in our PIL. If you know that there are certain reservations that have been made for women in the Panchayati Raj system, and well, it turned out that these reservations have been in name only, because in areas where there is that woman who becomes a sarpanch, it is not her, it is not she who's working, it is her husband who ends up, holding that post, and her name is there just in name. So there is that concept of Mr. So and so, who's the sarpanch pati, who's going to be taking the main decision. So this was one of the PIL that was filed by us, where the Honorable Court had given directions to the center to do something about it, and the center has gone ahead and they have formed a committee to look into this and to identify, these problems and how they can be sorted out. The other PIL that I said is pending before the Honorable Court is one where we are asking for libraries to be set up at the grassroots level. For those who say that library ka kya hi hoga, let me tell you, a library is not just about books. It is also about an area where all the people, the young minds, can congregate and have healthy discussions. So instead of wasting your time here and there watching YouTube videos on the roadside, these children have a healthy area in the name of a library, which also has, Wi-Fi facility and digital books and whatnot, and also other people who can mentor the young minds, and these people, these little kids, or for that matter even teenagers and grown-ups, can sit together and they can have something fruitful. So we are asking for libraries to be set up at every village level, in fact, so that there can be education in every home, even in areas that cannot afford a computer or a Wi-Fi or books for that matter. So we're trying to take education to every home in every village through this PIL.
So, ma'am, as you mentioned library, so you must be an avid reader as well.
Love reading. I am the sort of person, like I keep saying, I even read shampoo labels. I love to
Okay.
read.
So, ma'am, in what genres you are?
Um, well, I I have always been very averse to self-help books. I find them very boring. I like to read thrillers. I like to read sci-fi. I also love reading romance. I love to read mythologies. They are my favorite books. I love um, I like to read Bhagavad Gita because I feel that every time you read it, it opens up your mind, and you read it, you read the same couplet 10 times, you will draw 10 different inferences from it. So it really reflects the condition of your mind, and whatever your problem is, that book is magical. You just pick it up, start reading from any page, and it'll answer your questions and
Okay,
really give
ma'am.
you a lot of peace.
So, what's that one book that you feel captures the essence of law and a must read for us, for law students?
There is no such one book that can capture the essence of such a dynamic field such as law. I don't think there can ever be a single source which captures the dynamic nature of this profession. So, n number of books you read, any book you read, be it children's literature, be it the newspaper, be it the writings of a top-notch lawyer or a judge, any memoir that you read, everything, you put everything into one basket, even then it will fail to capture the dynamism of law as a profession or law
This
as a
is
field.
what makes us proud as law students.
It is, of course, no matter how much you read. Why do you think that you practice as a lawyer? Because no matter how well you do, you never become an expert at it. You always are a learner and you always keep practicing.
That's the beauty of law, we can
That's
say.
beautiful. You can never get bored in law, that's for sure.
Okay, ma'am. So, if you take us to glance of your school days, how was your school days? Were you an active participant in
I
programs
was
and
overactive. I think I was most of the times. My teachers used to make fun of me, and they used to tell me that why don't you put your chair outside the class because you're most often outside it rather than inside. I mean, anything that went wrong anywhere in the school, I was either the reason for it or I was going to go and correct it. So I was somehow inclined to whatever happened in the school. So I loved my school days, and for that matter, even my college days. I was hyperactive, I would say, both in school and college, and even now. I want to be everywhere at the same time.
ma'am, you are everywhere. So if we see आप एक बहुत strong और eminent name हो when it comes to posh and sexual harassment law as well. So ma'am, can you give us a deeper glance into these as well as we are aware of the number of cases rapidly increasing in India?
Well, Shambhavi, I would say that POSH as a law came out only. It's a very, I would say it's an infant law for that matter, still in its nascent stage. The act came out in the year 2013, that too at the fag end in December. So very new, not even 10 years old. And POSH, the intent behind the law was to empower women who were working outside the safe boundaries of their home, how to make their workplace how to make their workplace safer for them. But over the years, I've also realized that POSH has, instead of being used as something to protect yourself from, it has also started being used as a weapon now by women against hapless men. So anytime I'm coming across more such cases where women are using POSH as a sword to punish men who would call them out for the shoddy work that they do, or who are not working well enough, or who are taking, like you said, shortcuts in their own profession. So more and more women are using POSH to punish men, so to say, कि उनको मजा अच्छा खाने के लिए. At the same time, I also personally feel that women who are actually in need of this law are still not able to get the courage to come out in the open and name their accused or their harasser and to bring him to justice. So
So
women who
ma'am,
actually need the law are unable to use it. And those who are using it don't really need it. They are the ones who are aggressors, so to say. So this is one dichotomy that we need to correct as far as the POSH law is concerned.
so ma'am हम कह सकते हैं कि instead of saying it कि protection against women, I think I personally think that we should say protection not for women, for human beings, because we have seen कि not even children are spared of these things. और अगर हम बात करें तो जेंडर इक्वालिटी की, तो मैम आई थिंक men also need protection nowadays क्योंकि most of the divorce cases Men are the victims.
Men are the victim. There is no doubt about it. If you see, there are so many laws that are, biased towards women. If you look at the POSH law, a man cannot file a complaint under the POSH Act. If you see the Domestic Violence Act, a man cannot file a complaint under the Domestic Violence Act. Does that mean that men are not prone to violence? Does that mean that no violence is happening against them? Well, of course not. So we need to, but one of the biggest needs of the hour is to make all these laws gender neutral. I would say if we talk about equality, we should not increase the inequalities, today in the society by giving extra protection to women. At the core, if you want to raise the level of women, do not do so by pulling down men. Do so by empowering women in the correct way, and setting up enough checks and balances so that these laws are not misused against the male gender. Otherwise we will be fostering inequalities of another level, and the system would never be at rest. There will be never that equilibrium that we are seeking today.
Yeah, ma'am. So if we are talking about gender equality, if we are putting emphasis on gender equality, then ma'am, do you think a word like feminism should exist in our society?
Of course, I think feminism is the most um, misunderstood word. What is it that we mean when we talk about feminism? The picture that comes to your mind is a flag bearing lady marching down the street. But feminism is actually something that says that, okay, I am a woman, proud to be one, just let me be. Do not penalize me for being a woman. Do not take away opportunities from me just because I have a particular set of chromosomes. Do not create hurdles in my path. If I want to succeed, and if I am equipped and meritorious enough to succeed, let me succeed the way let me be hardworking. Give me a level playing field. Do not create such a position for me where I succeed despite being a woman. You know, don't let me pay the price of being a woman. Let me just fight a neutral battle, create a level playing field wherever, everyone, be it a man or a woman, is coming across the same hurdles instead of the side of women where there are 20,000 extra hurdles in our path. So that is what, for me, feminism means. It does not mean that you if it is a 100 meters dash for a woman. I am not asking, being a feminist, I'm not saying कि आदमी तो 100 मीटर भागेंगे और औरतों को 60 मीटर कर दो यार. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, if it is a 100-meter dash, please do not put boulders on my path, because the men also don't have boulders in theirs. Let it be the same kind of path, and then we will all run together, and then whoever wins, wins. How does
So
it sound?
ma'am, we can say that men and women are more of companions, not competitors.
They are. I think they are. They complement each other. I have never really wanted to be equal to a man, because I have my own strengths and weaknesses, and they have their own. And let us be complementing to each other. And maybe whatever weakness I have, they would have a corresponding strength, and we will have to, we will have a good life. We will be able to live in harmony with each other because we have different strengths and we have different weaknesses. If we created a uniform world where everybody had the same strength and same weakness, then life would be indeed very difficult.
तो मैम ऐसा कहा जाता है इंडियन सोसाइटी के बारे में दैट इट हैज़ ऑलवेज बीन अ पेट्रियार्कल सोसाइटी तो मैम डू यू थिंक कि एज women we are always taught what to expect from a man and not how to treat a man? It might be controversial, but it's
I
true.
I
We all
know
know it's true.
it is. See, I'll tell you. I keep telling everyone, and there are some people who get very aggravated and who say कि तू औरत होके ऐसी बात कर रही है. But well,
हाँ.
I will be the first person to say it, that in our hurry to bring up our daughters like our sons, we have forgotten to show them how to treat others. And there is a certain dignity in being a woman. And when you talk about equality, when you talk about your rights, somewhere along the way you forget your own duties. So, as a woman, you would want a man to get up and give you the seat, but at the same time, you would immediately take an affront if the man expects you to pour a cup of tea for him. Why is it so? You would want the man to come out and hold the door for you, but at the same time, you would say, well, मैं ये क्यों करूं? मैं तो, I also deserve to be in a situation where a man is pouring a cup of tea for me. Well, then you do everything equally. Don't get insulted when the man expects you to pay your own bill. Don't feel bad when he says that, well, the two of us have come out for lunch, let's go Dutch. Then immediately you're like, Arey, dekho, he's not being a gentleman. He's expecting me to pay. If you want equality, all of you are coming back from a long day at work, right, in the metro. Why is it that I have seen so many women who would demand it as a right? They would look at a man, they would frown, and they would say, "आपको दिख नहीं रहा एक lady खड़ी हुई है? क्या आप मुझे सीट नहीं दे सकते?" I feel so bad. At that point in time, I'm like, didn't you want equality, man? Now why can't you stand? Aren't you strong enough? You were the ones who said na, that I am very strong. I am very strong. It takes a lot of courage to give birth to a human body. कितनी हड्डियां टूटने का दर्द and what not. Well, then now, why can't you stand up for a long day at work? Why do you want that poor fellow who got there first to stand up for you? You have a whole coach, reserved for you. Then you have these certain seats also reserved in other coaches. And now you are asking him to be the gentleman and stand up for you just because you're a lady. Well, that does not define ladies, as far as I'm concerned. If you want equality, have it in everything. Then don't have specially reserved colleges for women. Don't have specially reserved this and that. You know, I do
Like
understand that.
reservation in judicial exams as well.
Everything. No, I do understand. See, for certain things, as far as ladies' toilets are concerned, for example, I do understand when there are practical difficulties in having toilets that are used by both the genders, because there can be a certain level of an open setup as far as a male toilet is concerned, which is not feasible and possible for women. I can understand that. But for having equality in everything, well, that will be difficult, I would say. So let there be diversity. Why do you want to equate everything? But if you're talking about your rights all the time, but then also remember to talk about your duties, because there are two sides of the same coin called life. And the coin is going to be very distorted if it only has rights on both the sides and the duties are lost somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
So that is something that we need to be very careful, be very, very careful about what you ask for, because God just might give it to you. That's what they say, don't they?
So, ma'am, we can say कि it's high time that we should also ask for men's right, or we can say कि women should also stick to their certain duties.
Well, who are we to say anything? I
Ma'am, we are
always,
lawyers.
no, 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 no. Until unless somebody pays us to say something or to fight for them, we should keep our opinion to ourselves. What I'm really saying is, don't poke your nose in other people's business. Let everybody do their own thing, as long as it is not illegal, of course. I mean, you can't tell people to go around killing other people. But who are we to say कि इनको right दो, इनकी right लो, या इनके लिए ये करो, वो करो? I am just saying, concentrate on your own thing. If you want equality, please understand that everything comes at a price. If you want to ask for your rights, also be willing to give your duties. That is my simple logic in life.
Okay, ma'am. So, if we come to the current headlines that we have been seeing so far, तो अभी few cases like the Kolkata rape case, then Udham Singh Nagar district, then in Dehradun ISBT, and I guess just a day or 2 days before, we had one 16-year-old girl, minor girl, returning from Garba night. She got raped.
Yeah, he
So,
was raped.
ma'am, एक side we are worshipping girls as Devi, and the other side all these things are happening. So, yet why the government is not able to take strict actions? Where are we lacking exactly?
See, we have the laws now. We have everything. What we are lacking in somehow is, I think, the implementation of these laws. So, because of the sheer number of people that we have in our country and the confusion that it creates, and the fact that the procedures are not really followed to the T, somehow the evidence trail, it gets cold, it gets diluted, and this is the reason why most of the accused are able to get away with murder, so to say. I think we really need to be very, very careful that the evidence collection and the way that it is preserved and the rules and regulations, the procedure that is required to collect the evidence and to secure it, that should not be diluted under any circumstance. And if the police is, you know, called at a particular time, and if they answer, and if they appear or materialize in time, and they do what is required of them, the implementation needs to be tighter than what it is today in order to, you know, see, whenever the accused should have that fear in their mind that, you know, they cannot get away with this. Till the time that that happens, we still have a long way to go as far as the safety of women is concerned in the country.
Ma'am, since we're talking about this, so it is quite obvious that many people here do not know what is marital rape. So, ma'am, can you please tell us about it?
See, there was a big hue and cry about marital rape, I think last year also, when the case was going on. And there was a certain section of the society that wanted to criminalize it. But as of now, marital rape has not been criminalized in India for the simple reason that there are certain difficulties to proving marital rape. Because whatever happens within the four walls of the house is supposed to be sacred. Any kind of information or interaction that happens between a husband and a wife is sacred. It is privileged. So bringing that out in the open and then proving that the husband, the consent, the concept of consent was not allowed, because one of the rights of the husband is also, the right to physical intimacy. And the question as to whether a wife can actually refuse to give consent, so to say, to that physical intimacy, which happens to be a big part of any life. That question was involved, and as of now, I would say that there are quite a large percentage of women that do undergo this uh, treatment within their own houses, where they do not know where to run, because we all consider our houses to be the safest place on earth where we would run to whenever confronted with danger. Now, imagine the plight of a woman for who the house itself becomes an unsafe place. So, where does she go? If she goes to her in laws, they say, well, you are the wife. अगर तुम्हारे साथ नहीं करेगा तो किसके साथ करेगा? Do you want to go outside? Then she goes to her parents who say, well, बेटा अब तो हमने तुम्हारी शादी कर दी, तुम्हारा जो भी है वही है. Now, where does this woman go to? If she goes to law, the law says, well, this is, I'm sorry, this is not criminalized. So we have a long, long way to go. Again, Shambhavi, like you said, what do PILs do, right? So maybe when the circumstances change, I think when the society has enough advancement to recognize marital rape as a concept, maybe this question can be asked again, and maybe at that time the answer would be different.
तो मैम हम कह सकते हैं कि कहीं ना कहीं जो सोसाइटल नॉर्म्स हैं और कल्चरल प्रेशर है वो इन सम वे परपिचुएट्स मैरिटल रेप.
देखिए, सोसाइटी एक मिरर होता है. Law and society, they are mirrors to each other. Whatever becomes acceptable in the society, sooner or later the law would also accept it. For example, concept of divorce, it was never there. But then as it became more radical, law started accepting divorce. It started becoming an option for people. Then there was a time when live-in was taboo. Now, law has protected live-in relationships in the sense that domestic violence, includes relationships that are of a living character. So sooner or later, as and when society becomes open enough to recognize certain things, I think law would go ahead and reflect it. So a thing has to be acceptable or not acceptable in totality by the society for the law to come into the picture. And the law would change accordingly. There would be amendments in time.
Ma'am, so we can say that about marital rape or any other rape, the society need to be more coherent and educated about these things.
Well, the society has to come down heavily on the deterrents, or on any person who deters from the beaten path, so to say. If the society is, you know, not harsh enough on people who do it, then the people would not learn how to not do it. There was a time when people who used to steal ignored by the society, and they would be, declared outcasts, or a person who would get into, for example, an extramarital affair. Society was very tough on them.
Yeah.
But now the society has become more open, so people don't think twice about going into another relationship despite being married. People are like, what the heck? How does it matter? हाँ हाँ सब करते हैं. You understand? So when that tag comes ना कि ये तो सभी करते हैं, then it becomes normalized. The normal behavior for people to get into. So there is no social taboo on it. So everybody will go ahead and do it. Now, once a person who rapes, a rapist, once he realizes, अरे ये तो ये भी छूट गया, वो भी छूट गया, क्या फर्क पड़ता है? कर लो भैया, you can get away with it. Then people more will come ahead and start doing things that they should not be doing. So, like I said, that
Also,
fear should be there in them, that, oh my God, what will people say? What will people do to me, rather? Oh my God, what will the law do to me if I do this? That fear would be the biggest deterrent of all.
also, ma'am, abhi recently there was there sorry, I think my voice cracked. So, ma'am, there was one announcement made कि instead of sending people to jails, we'll be sending them to. Am I audible?
Yeah, yeah, you're audible. Go ahead.
तो मैम हाँ तो पीपल वर सेइंग कि इंस्टेड ऑफ सेंडिंग पीपल टू जेल्स हम इनको सुधार केंद्र
हाँ,
भेजेंगे तो
reformative justice.
व्हाट डज दिस मीन लाइक आई पर्सनली डिडंट अंडरस्टूड व्हाट एग्जैक्टली दिस इज.
So there are two stages of there are two ways of correcting bad behavior. One is you punish them, punitive justice we call it. The other is आप उनको सुधारने की कोशिश करो, which is called reformative justice. So जो भी advanced societies होती हैं, reformative justice को एक elite या एक advanced sort of जस्टिस माना जाता है, जिसमें आप जो गलत करता है काम उसको आप सुधार कर वापस सोसाइटी में इनग्रेन करते हो, इंटीग्रेट करते हो. सो इट इज सपोज टू बी अ बेटर फॉर्म ऑफ जस्टिस. आप कोई कहा जाता है कि भाई कोई इंसान बुरा नहीं होता, हमें उस इंसान को नहीं मारना, उसके अंदर की बुराई को मारना है. तो इन ऑर्डर टू किल द बुराई इन दैट इंसान यू नीड टू रिफॉर्म दैट पर्सन. हाउ टू डू दैट? यू सेंड हिम टू अ सुधार केंद्र. और फॉर दैट मैटर, अगर जैसे अभी जो नया बीएनएस आया है, जो भारतीय न्याय संहिता, उसमें ये कम्युनिटी सर्विस का कॉन्सेप्ट इंट्रोड्यूस किया गया है, जो पहले नहीं था आईपीसी सीआरपीसी में. आपने देखे होंगे आजकल तो एवरी टाइम यू हैव दीज वीडियोस, दीज videos on the YouTube also, where there is this English judge or a foreign judge who's giving out punishments कि अच्छा आप 10 घंटे की कम्युनिटी सर्विस, अच्छा आपने लाल बत्ती तोड़ी है तो इतने घंटे की कम्युनिटी सर्विस, आप इतनी देर ओल्ड एज होम में बिताओगे, इतनी देर आप ऑर्फनेज में बिताओगे, या इतने पेड़ लगाओगे. सो दीज आर ऑल instances of reformative justice, where you are trying to bring about a change in the person who has done wrong, so that he also understands his responsibilities, and you're trying to put him in such an environment where he understands that, oh my God, ye mujhse galat ho gaya tha, now let me be a better person and correct myself. So that is what reformative justice is all about.
तो मैम अभी रिसेंटली जो बैंगलोर में एक्सीडेंट केस था, एक पोर्शन ने हिट कर दिया था, तो उसमें 300 वर्ड्स के ऐसे लिखने का जजमेंट दिया था. तो व्हाट वाज दैट? एज अ लॉ स्टूडेंट इट वाज माय क्यूरियोसिटी टू नो कि व्हाट एग्जैक्टली वाज दैट.
Well, see, I'll tell you what, Sambhavi, it is so even though now the new laws they have come out with the concept of community service, what is, I feel, the downside of it is that they have not defined what community service is all about. Like you said, अगर वो एक पर्टिकुलर नंबर ऑफ वर्ड्स का ऐसे लिख के वो बंदा सुधर तो नहीं जाएगा. इट इज जस्ट लाइक, यू रिमेंबर हाउ व्हेन वी वर लिटिल किड्स, आई डोंट नो वेदर दे डू इट एनी मोर और नॉट. I will not fight with my classmate.
We
Right,
used to
20
write
times.
10 to 20 times.
10 times, 20 times. I can just imagine now they're just going to write it once on Word, and then they will copy paste it a million times and take a printout and give it to their teacher, if that is done in today's scenario. So we have to really understand the logic behind it. And I think if we start doing it by the book, कि हाँ भाई community service करनी है, it'll be a tough nut to crack then. We have to do it with our heart in the right place. Until that time that it is done like that, I doubt that it will serve the purpose that it is meant to.
मैम तो आप एक AOR हो, एंड सो हाउ इज इट डिफरेंट फ्रॉम अदर एडवोकेट्स? व्हाट एग्जैक्टली AOR इज?
See, AOR means an advocate on record. If you're an AOR in the Supreme Court, that means you have to clear a particular exam, and then you get a code. And whenever you file anything in the Supreme Court, you have to have that code in order to access the filing. Until and unless you're an AOR, you cannot file anything in your name. So let's say I have a case today. I want to fight it at the Supreme Court. I will have to be an AOR. If I'm not one, then I have to be in touch with an AOR who would file it for me. Only then that case will go inside. And then I can argue it even if I'm not an AOR, but I cannot file it until unless I am one. So that is the difference.
Ma'am, so it is as an advocate, it is believed that learning never ends, as you also said.
Yes, definitely.
So, ma'am, as a hobby, can you give us some of the books, like if we are going to start reading? As you said,
There are
self-help
so
book
many,
helps a lot.
memoirs that judges and lawyers have written. I think you pick up anyone, any one of them, and you would find so many things to learn from them. I was recently reading a book that has been written by Justice Nariman. It is his assessment of certain cases, and it really opens up a lot for you when you read them, and you get an insight into how the judges think. When how a particular case it comes out when the judgment is delivered, how do they assess that judgment, what according to them is the high point and the low point of that judgment, what is commendable. So maybe if you read it enough number of times, everybody's assessment of a particular case, your own assessment with time would change, and it will become broader. So any writing by any judge, if you pick up, in fact, I could want to comment one new literary development that has happened. It is a very very novel step that has been taken by the Delhi High Court Bar Association. They have come out with a new, I don't know what to call it, a blog, or they on their website they have a new page now, humor inside court. So any funny anecdote that anybody wants to put in, there are so many funny things that happen on a day to day in every court. It is hilarious. You have to be there or you'll miss it. So they have this new now section there in their website. I think it's a very commendable thing, and everybody must go and read it. I think
Okay, ma'am. So
you know, in order to have an insight that yes, lawyers and judges also have a funny side to them.
not only they argue all the time.
Yes, they don't argue; they also laugh, which I think is very
Okay, ma'am.
important.
So we also came to know that you are a travel enthusiast.
Yes, yes, I love to travel, even though I don't get enough time these days. But I love to travel.
So what was your last destination?
My last destination, I went to Sri Lanka recent. I mean, in the beginning of the year, it's already been one whole year. I went there in January, one whole year, and I haven't really. I think I went to Goa also, a very short trip, Mabalipuram. I'm passionate about visiting new countries, and I really like to see the way they live their life. And every country has a unique style of living. And if you, as far as India is concerned, I like to go to little towns and hamlets where nobody else goes. So my idea of a perfect holiday is a place where nobody else actually goes, so I can just sit peacefully, you know, without a lot of other travelers bustling around. If I have to travel inside India.
So, ma'am, till now we came to know that you are an advocate, you have your own practice, you are an educator, you have a loving family, you are a traveler. So, how do you manage everything so well?
Oh, everything manages me. I just like to go with the flow. I have never managed anything in my life. I think the things and my life itself is managing me. So I wouldn't take any credit for it. Things just happen by chance. I see, as far as this podcast is concerned, I did not reach out to you guys. So things come to
Yeah.
me. I think I attract good things in life. I'm very lucky that ways.
Okay, ma'am, that's so good to hear that. So, as we're moving towards the conclusion of today's podcast, I would be very glad if you share your insights about today's event and enlighten our audience with your words.
Well, my insight, Shambhavi, is always that these kind of events, they are always a very good way of other people who are wanting to come into this profession to find out as to what this profession is all about and how do people who are already into it feel. Like we were discussing the first generation lawyers. See, people who have already been with other lawyers, they would know the life of a lawyer. But for people who are coming into this field for the first time, they have no idea who to go to and who to talk to. So for them, these kind of events and these kind of interactions are they are a very good way of enlightening themselves as to whether this is the right profession for them. So in that sense, I think the fact that you guys must have done a lot of research in order to spend this 1 hour with me. You already know so much about me, so it's not like you were born with this knowledge. You had to go out and seek it, right? So this is where your learning starts from, and this is how everybody. If I were to want to find out something about a sports person, I would also go look up an interview of somebody who's done some well in a particular sport, and that is going to enlighten me as to their viewpoint regarding that sport. So these kind of programs, I think, are a very good way of educating other people and of increasing their knowledge about a particular profession.
Ma'am, as we can see, you have a very inspiring journey. So, what's that one lesson in your professional as well as personal life that you still follow?
Um, the one lesson that I would also encourage others to follow is that always be on time. Never miss the bus. Because you might or might not like the journey, but you have to be on the bus in order to appreciate that fact. So you never have to miss the bus, always be on time, be a couple of minutes before time. That will always be good for you. So once you miss the bus, you miss so many opportunities that would have come to you. So one thing that a lawyer always needs to be is on time.
Okay, ma'am. So, time and tide waits for none. It's very
That,
true.
and cases will also not wait for anyone. So you better be there in order to snatch them.
Ma'am, you talked about cases. So, like, if we are a fresher in the court, or we can say a newbie in the court, how can we convince clients for to so they come to us?
Never convince anybody. You will see, as it is, as an advocate you are not allowed to solicit work, so it's not like you can go to different people and say अरे हमारे हमारे चेम्बर में आओ हमसे केस कराओ. तो वो चीज़ तो आप वैसे भी नहीं कर सकते. लॉ इज़ अ वेरी नोबल प्रोफेशन. यू आर नॉट अलाउड टू सॉलिसिट वर्क. और आपके कहने से कोई आपके पास आएगा भी नहीं. Let me tell you, let me put it like that. Always project yourself as a good lawyer, be confident, and then the work will come to you. You need not go anywhere to solicit work. That is the beauty of this profession. The work will definitely come to you if you are prepared enough. So, all you need to do is prepare yourself for the work, because then the work will come to you. Don't go running after work, because then you will not have time to prepare for it. Even if you get it by hook or by crook, you will not be able to do justice to it.
Okay, ma'am. So that was an impeccable session with you. Thank you so much for being with us today. And moving ahead, on behalf of entire Vidhi Ekta Sangh, I would like to present a small token of appreciation and memory. Kindly allow me to do so.
Definitely, I would love it.
So, ma'am, it's a certificate from the
Thank
Vidhi
you so
Ekta Sangh.
much. Thank you so much. I love it.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your valuable time. It was indeed my honor to have you here. Hope you enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, I loved it. Thank you so much. Have a good day, all of you.
A last, my deepest thank to our event department, whose hard work and dedication made it possible for us to have such an astonishing podcast with ma'am. I also present my gratitude to the Vidhi Ekta Sangh for providing me the opportunity to host this podcast, and special thanks to Priyanka ma'am, Mayank sir, Shweta Ranjan, Danish Chandra, Yukta Gurjar, and Aditya Kumar, and all of those who helped me in making this event a huge success. So again, I want to tell you all that Vidhi Ekta Sangh is an organization with numbers of lawyers, advocates, judges, and law students who come together to promote a more systematic legal environment. And that was Shambhavi Singh. Have a great day ahead.